Today we're talking about the history and the origin of Thundercats. Alongside G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, and Voltron, Thundercats ranks up there as one of the most cherished of the American cartoons that came out of the 1980s golden age of animation. So let's give a big Thundercats ho! And jump right into our story. Before we do, let me say thank you for watching the channel, whether you're back for more or it's your first time here. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the content I upload just like this every few days. Let's jump into the story. First premiering in 1985, Thundercats ran for 130 episodes, all the way until the end of the decade, 1989. 1989 is the year that Warner Brothers acquired Telepictures, who, through Rankin Bass Productions, were makers of Thundercats. In the late 1990s, Cartoon Network started airing these reruns in the Toonami block, and so interest in the franchise bloomed once again, and the resurgence of the brand led the company to start developing other projects. Paul Sopsey, for example, sold a Thundercats script to Warner in 2007 for a feature-length film that was ultimately never greenlit, but a reboot appeared in 2011, which only lasted for one season because the show didn't sell enough toys. The reboot used an animation style from a Japanese studio called Studio 4C. The original show was drawn in Japan by artists from the Pacific Animation Corporation who had gone on to work on Silverhawks and later ended up at Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky, so the anime influence was still quite on brand for the franchise. Thundercats Roar, announced in 2018, premiered in 2020, but its animation style, more in line with something like Adventure Time, has not been received well by longtime fans. So who are the Thundercats? Let's jump into their in-story tale. The Thundercats were a race of feline humanoids from a planet called Thundera. The ruler of Thundera was King Claudius, Lord of the Thundercats, and his son was a 12-year-old boy named Lion-O. Lion-O was actually called Lion-L in an early draft of the script. It was thought it may be too phonetically similar to another toy, the famous Lion-O Trains. King Claudius' friend and mentor was Jaga the Wise. Lion-O's direct care was entrusted to a little creature named Snarf Osbert, although they just called him Snarf. Other noblemen who would form the main cast were Cheetara, Tygra, Panthro, and the twin Thunder Kittens, Wiley-Kit and WileyKat. A race of mutants lived on a nearby planet called Plun-Darr, ruled over by a warlord named Rattilla. Rattilla decided to invade and appropriately plunder Thundera and steal the treasure of Thundera, which was a sacred collection of ancient and mystical artifacts like the Book of Omens and the Sword of Omens. The Book of Omens was a gold book containing all the secrets and history of the Thundercats. It also served as a portal to another dimension, guarded by the Guardians of the Book. The book was coded and was only able to be opened with either the Key of Omens or the Sword of Omens. The Sword of Omens had apertures in the hilt that, when looking through it, granted the user sight beyond sight. Basically, you could see what the other Thundercats were doing. The sword also contained in its hilt the Eye of Thundera. And the Eye of Thundera is this ruby-like gem that holds within it this ancient primordial cosmic energy that grants the Thundercats their power and gives them their life. Only the ruler of Thundera was able to wield the Sword of Omens. To stop Rattilla from stealing this mystical sword, Jaga rose up to meet Rattilla and they fought. Jaga stole Rattilla's sword from him, called the Sword of Plun-Darr, and threw it in a canyon full of volcanic activity so he wouldn't be able to wield it against the people of Thundera. But the magical Sword of Plun-Darr sank beneath the molten surface of lava, but it didn't melt. Instead, it sank to the core of Thundera, where it started to split the entire planet apart. It just so happens that Plun-Darr was also destroyed, and so the mutants sent their kind off-world in a mutant mothership. Thundera was now doomed, so Jaga commanded an Exodus ship who left the planet. Jaga gave the crew clothes and weapons, just they were naked at first, just before Scythe and the mutants attacked their ship, damaging it in the navigation system. Jaga said he would manually pilot the ship to their destination, and so the rest of the crew went in suspension capsules for the light years trip. It was a willing sacrifice because Jaga passed away just before they got there, but he'd continue to show up in astral form through the series. The suspension technology malfunctioned, causing Lion-O's body to age while his mind remained as a 12-year-old boy. They made it to Third Earth, their new planet, and Lion-O became the owner of the Sword of Omens, and in the third episode, he finally called out his iconic battle cry. Part of Lion-O's ascension to Lord of the Thundercats required him to battle each of his friends, and he did so in Lion-O's appointment. The Thundercats enlisted their new friends and neighbors, the robotic Ewok little beings known as Burbles, to build their new home called Cat's Lair. So the mutants ended up making it to Third Earth too, and they enslaved the Brute Men and forced them to build their castle Plun-Darr. Very soon they would discover the greatest villain of Third Earth, a villain who evokes the terrifying, nightmarish appearance of rotting mummies from Egyptian lore of antiquity. That villain is the iconic Mumm-Ra, who formed an unholy alliance with the mutants. Mumma-Ra The Everliving is a powerful wizard and demon priest who serves as a vessel to summon the ancient spirits of evil. The ancient spirits of evil are godlike beings, but were confined to the Black Pyramid on Third Earth, and so they needed Mumm-ra to extend beyond the boundaries of the Black Pyramids. So it was this sort of symbiotic relationship. Because of this, Mumm-ra used the Black Pyramid as his lair. In Lion-O's first fight with Mumm-ra, he showed Mumm-ra his own reflection, his own evil reflecting back at him in a golden gauntlet, and Mumm-ra's weakness was exposed, giving Lion-O a close victory. And they would go on to use this against him in the future. Thundercats Ho! Turned into the opening event for Season 2, where it's revealed that Pumai-Ra, Lynxo, and Bengali were alive, and Mumm-ra was holding them captive at Fire Rock Mountain. Lion-O went to rescue them, but lost his sword in an avalanche. Hachiman and his Thundercutter sword showed up to fight Lion-O, and they were friends, but he'd been tricked by Mumm-ra. And then Jaga showed up to give Lion-O the Star of Thundera, which Mumm-ra promptly stole, and when he tried to use it and was buried as Fire Rock Mountain erupted. And thinking Mumm-ra finally defeated, the Thundercats feasted, celebrated, and rested. Mumm-ra was alive, though, and his pet, named Mamut, pulled him from the mountain rubble and brought him back to Black Pyramid. And so as he recovered, the weakened Mumm-ra and the mutants unleashed the fearsome Lunatics of Plun-Darr from their imprisonment in the lava pits of a place called Darkside. The Lunatics had gone to Third Earth long ago, long before the Thunderians and the mutants showed up. The Thundercats then built the Tower of Omens, a second base, near the Forest of Mists at the edge of Darkside. The ancient spirits of evil gave Mumm-ra back his power and energy, and he was transformed once again into Mumma-Ra The Everliving. In Season 3, Mumm-ra learned of the treasure of Thundera and decided to recreate Thundera, new Thundera, in order to steal the treasure and the sword of Plun-Darr, using Snarfs as his slaves. He found the sword just as the Thundercats got there. Mumm-ra and the Thundercats fought over the treasure's items like the Chain of Loyalty, the Totem of Dara, the Jade Dragon, and the Book of Omens, and the ancient spirits of evil told Mumm-ra to defeat the Thundercats by sundown or he'd be banished forever. So he grew into this colossal kaiju form and attacked, but the sun went down and he was banished. Thinking the Lunatics, mutants, and Mumm-ra all defeated, the Thundercats decided to go back to New Thundera to rebuild and start their new peaceful life over again. And for Season 4, the ancient spirits gave Mumm-ra one last chance. Destroy the gyroscope at the core of New Thundera, thereby destroying its gravity, and to help him with this task, they built him a new Black Pyramid. On New Thundera, the fight against Mumm-ra continued even as the Thundercats continue to help refugees, and as Mumm-ra summoned beings like Immortus and Malachar to do his bidding. Panthro finally figured out how to use the Book of Omens, using the key of Thundera to unlock it. Mumm-ra stole both the key and the book, and Lion-O found out, so he went to the Black Pyramid to confront Mumm-ra. So Mumm-ra actually went inside the book via the portal, and so Lion-O used his Sword of Omens, the next key to get in there, following him right into the book itself. Lion-O ended up defeating Mumm-ra in combat and presented the Key of Thundera to the Guardians of the Book. And when this happened, the Thundercats Panthro logo roared to life, leapt to the ground, and helped the Thundercats restore peace and life to all of New Thundera. And we had a happy conclusion where the story felt complete. While the show was airing on television, Marvel Comics was publishing a comic book series through their Star imprint as well as at Marvel UK. Afterwards, with the line under Warner, who owns DC Comics, Thundercats would be published at DC Comics' Wildstorm imprint. In 2004, the Thundercats were transported to Metropolis, where they teamed up with Superman to help stop Mumm-ra. They also crossed over with Battle of the Planets one time, and in 2016, Thundercats teamed up with He-Man when Mumm-ra targeted He-Man's Sword of Power, a powerful blade rivaling the Thundercats' own Sword of Omens. Skeletor and Mumm-ra merged and formed Mumma-Tor, and it took the combined might of both He-Man and Lion-O to win. And the Thundercats toy line, made by a company called LJN, were larger than the other lines that were being put out by companies like Hasbro and Kenner, the G.I. Joe and Star Wars figures. While they were larger, they lacked the number of points of articulation of their smaller counterparts, but Lion-O and Mumm-ra were pretty cool. They had these battery packs that you could make into a ring that you stick in their back and their eyes would light up. The line also had levers on their back so they could do this chopping motion with their arms. In addition to the 8 figures, we also had some really cool toys at the time, like the Sword of Omens, which lit up with a battery pack, the Thunder Tank, the Sky Cutter, and a big wheel pedal bike as well. The series expanded to 14 characters, with Season 2 including WileyKit, WileyKat, Groon, the Burbles, Mamut, and others. Although I always wished we would get that Feliner space shuttle. And so the action figures, the comic books, and the animated stories of Thundercats continue to be collected, enjoyed, and loved to this day. Thanks for taking this journey with me, my friends, through the world of Thundercats. Now you also have sight beyond sight and the history and the origin of this beloved franchise. Jump down to the comments and we'll continue this conversation down there. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be one of the first to know when I upload videos each week just like this. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.